I remember back in November, a few weeks after we all had won our election, and we came to this chamber, and a young man from Wesley Chapel talked about who some of our enemies were. And one of the enemies he talked about was unemployment, some of the burdensome regulations, but also he talked about illiteracy and education. I would tell you that today is, I think, one of those rare opportunities that we get in this chamber to all agree and support the future. A lot of times we get to argue overregulation versus deregulation, ethanol versus blended fuel. But today we're talking about the future. And I will tell you, when I ran for office, I had a young lady who was on a campaign commercial who said that my dad, if you vote for my dad, he will help end the FCAT as we know it. And I had, sometimes you go back and you check your campaign promises and you try and hold true to some of the things that you've done. And my daughter came and she checked me on that about 2 years ago, and she said, "Daddy, what are you doing to end FCAT as we know it?" And so I had to go back and look at my palm card again and say, you know what? I better get busy. Well, today we may not be ending FCAT as we know it, but I think we are transitioning to a better place for all of our children. And Mr. Speaker, I agree with you, especially in a PICO-strapped and a system from funding our building of our schools and universities. We're in a tough position because the dollars that we used to have for PICO aren't there. So we have to find a way to educate and build those virtual classrooms differently. And so I will tell you that I'm supporting this measure because of that challenge that we have with our PICO budget, but also because of Florida State University, and I will say it, but not with that much vigor, the University of Florida. To make, on the issue of preeminence, I believe that when we look at this bill and we go home to our communities, we can say that we supported a measure that supported our universities. But when it comes to the issue of preeminence, I will tell you this: a rising tide lifts all boats. But one thing I want to have us do is, I want all of our universities to be preeminent. So as we continue to work forward and work toward that goal of preeminence for all of our universities, whether they be virtual or whether they be brick and mortar, I hope that we continue to do that. And to our pages who are with us today, this doesn't mean you have to, you still have to take the FCAT in a few weeks. You still got to take the FCAT. But to my daughter who is getting ready to turn 14, and as a proud father who is taking high school courses as an 8th grader, sweetheart, I can tell you that today I'm making my vote to not end FCAT as we know it, but definitely get us closer to that day. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I close, and I appreciate favorable support for this great measure. Thank you.